Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about what the first 3 rounds of fantasy football drafts should look like in 2023. We are going to combine my rankings with the ADPs of a couple different websites to spit out what I believe will look like the first 3 rounds of fantasy football drafts. If we went with just my rankings, I don't think a lot of drafts would go that way, and if we went just with ADPs of one website, obviously if you play on Yahoo, ESPN, NFL Sleeper, whichever website you play on, the ADPs are different. So before we can get into things here, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into what the first 3 rounds of fantasy football drafts should look like in 2023. So the board is on the screen right now, and for me, the first pick is between 3 different players. You can go with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or Christian McCaffrey. I think this year, in a majority of leagues, Justin Jefferson will be the #1 overall pick. If you are in a half PPR league compared to PPR, you might want to consider going with Christian McCaffrey at the 101, but even in half PPR leagues, the majority of the time, I am going with Justin Jefferson. I really believe Justin Jefferson is one of the safest picks to make at #1 overall. The Minnesota Vikings defense is soft as baby shit, so they are going to have to throw the ball a bunch late in the game. We saw last season that under their new head coach, they were a much more pass-heavy offense when compared to the last couple of seasons. They bring in Jordan Addison-Ray to make up for the loss of Adam Thielen, and I think this is going to be a pretty solid offense yet again that is scoring a bunch of points, and their defense is going to be terrible, so they're going to have to throw the ball a bunch late in the games. I understand that a lot of people are nervous about Kirk Cousins. They like to drag Kirk Cousins through the mud, and I get it, right? It's fun to make fun of quarterbacks, right? And I get it. Kirk Cousins isn't the best quarterback in the NFL, but you don't need to have the best quarterback in the National Football League to be successful with Justin Jefferson's skill set. So Justin Jefferson is my 101. Here, you go with either Jamar Chase or Christian McCaffrey. We will lean with Jamar Chase here. Obviously, a couple of months ago, there was a little bit of worries about Joe Burrow's health, right? Will Joe Burrow be good to go for week #1? How will that injury impact the start of his season? We even had Jamar Chase go out and say that, hey, maybe for the first 5 weeks, maybe Joe Burrow should ride the pine so he doesn't risk injuries. But it would appear for week #1 and on, Joe Burrow will be the starting quarterback of this team. Jamar Chase did suffer an injury last season, which did impact his finish towards the end of the season. But in terms of points per game, this guy was up there with the best wide receivers in the NFL. Sure, he does have T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd by his side, but ultimately Jamar Chase is still the #1 option in what should be one of the best offenses in the NFL. At this point, there is an argument to be made that maybe you could go with Tyreek or Cooper Kupp, but there is just some safety about having Christian McCaffrey on your fantasy football roster, right? This guy's in Carolina, he's in San Francisco, and he is just butt-fucking defenses. It doesn't matter which team he was on. He is now in San Francisco with one of the best run game head coaches in the National Football League, with a great offensive line and with a quarterback in Big Cock Brock who loves to dump the ball off. This is a recipe of sugar, spice, and everything nice, like the Powerpuff Girls, for Christian McCaffrey to have yet another great season and potentially get that crown as the RB1 in fantasy football. At #4, we are going to lean with Mr. Tyreek Hill at this spot. Now, you can debate at 4 overall for a bunch of different players, right? If you want to go receiver, Tyreek Hill or Cooper Kupp, it's basically like flipping a coin in between both of those. You could argue for maybe Austin Eckler this high. Maybe you're a Bijan Robinson guy or gal. You want Bijan Robinson at the 104. I think this pick is very open. The top 3 is basically locked in. You're going with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or Christian McCaffrey, whoever is the best player available. But at #4, the world is kind of your oyster. I lean with Tyreek Hill because Tyreek Hill was amazing last year in Miami. I think if Tua Tagovailoa is able to stay healthy, I think Tyreek could crack over 2,000 receiving yards. We know how much this team loves to throw the football. Tua Tagovailoa is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. Tyreek Hill has that breakaway speed where he could catch a 7-yard slant and take that bitch directly to the crib, 99 yards. This is going to be a prolific offense yet again. So I fully expect Tyreek Hill under the second year of Mike McDaniel with Tua Tagovailoa hopefully healthy. I think the ceiling is the moon for Tyreek Hill. But again, you can definitely debate between Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. They both definitely have quarterbacks that are kind of scary, right? A little bit of risk with Tua, a little risk of Matthew Stafford with his messed up neck and back. Ultimately, though, Cooper Kupp is a guy that could easily reclaim his spot on the throne as well, right? The Triple Crown winner in 2021. Most receptions, most receiving yards, and most receiving touchdowns. It seems like a lot of people are kind of nervous to draft Cooper Kupp. Sometimes you see him fall all the way to the 108. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was starting to get nervous about Cooper Kupp because of that injury. But he's been practicing with the team, so there's really no need to be worried at this point. Wheels are up for Cooper Kupp to potentially have a humongous season. At number 6, I am going to lean with Bijan Robinson over Austin Eckler. I'm going to lean with the youth. There are a lot of fantasy football players that are shitting their pants when it comes to selecting Bijan Robinson. They are so nervous to take a rookie running back inside of the first round, but I think Bijan Robinson is an incredibly special talent. We saw last year Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley look amazing because of how much the Atlanta Falcons love to run the rock. They draft Bijan Robinson with a top 10 NFL draft pick. So you better believe they didn't draft this guy to watch him ride the pine. They drafted him to jam the ball down the defense's throat. I know at Texas in college, he wasn't this prolific pass catcher, but I think he could catch a similar amount of balls this season as Saquon Barkley, and that could potentially lead to Bijan Robinson finishing as the RB1 in fantasy football. At number 7, we are going to go with Stephon Diggs here. Now, I was originally someone that was kind of nervous about drafting Stephon Diggs, right? Because if you look at his season last year, you'd be like, does this guy really have the upside to outscore Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, or Justin Jefferson? And based upon last season, you'd probably come to the conclusion that the answer was no. But then, once you actually kind of understand and analyze the situation in Buffalo, you would come to remember that Josh Allen was banged up after he hurt his arm. It was kind of a different season for Stephon Diggs. Now, Diggs was still fine, but obviously, if Josh Allen is at full health, that's how Stephon Diggs gets fully unlocked and could finish as the wide receiver number 1. He's the clear number 1 weapon in what should be one of the better offenses in the NFL with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think a lot of people are severely overthinking Stephon Diggs, as I've seen him, according to some websites, going in the second round. At number 8, we're going to stop the bleeding and go with Austin Eckler, running back of the LA Chargers. Eckler could be the number 2 overall pick as high in your fantasy football league. A lot of people love Austin Eckler, and so do I. I think that Justin Herbert, the pervert, just has it ingrained in his mind to dump the ball off to Eckler. He is getting up there in age. Important to note that at a certain point, running backs are more likely to get injured the older they get. That's just statistics. Again, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, but I did the research, and that is true. I don't think Austin Eckler is guaranteed to get hurt, but that is something that plays into my consideration in the first round. Wide receivers, on a per-season standpoint, get injured a game and a half less than a running back. So inherently in the first round, where you're trying to be super safe, wrap that condom around your team, the wide receivers are safer. Austin Eckler, again, this is a guy that you can have the easy argument that he finishes as the RB1. He could get the most amount of targets at the running back position, and he even gets enough carries to where maybe one year he could get the most rushing yards as well, right? This guy is incredibly talented, but I think when push comes to shove, a lot of the time I would take Stephon Diggs over Austin Eckler. Moving to the 9th overall pick, this is where we go with Travis Kelce. Some people have Travis Kelce ranked as high as the top 5. To me, in a 12-team league, I just don't view the tight end position as that crazy of importance, because I think that in 12-team leagues, not every team is going to be stacked, and having that positional advantage at tight end isn't as important. Now, does that mean that I think Travis Kelce is a shit first-round pick? No. I will still take Travis Kelce in the first round. I'm just not confident taking him ahead of Bijan, Kupp, Diggs, Eckler, right? These guys that could single-handedly put your team on their back at more important positions to me. Now, again, Kelce is still a great player. In a 10-team league, I would consider drafting him inside of the top 5, especially in an 8-team league where the tight end positional advantage is a lot more important. He's a guy that's getting up there in age. Eventually, someone's going to dethrone him as the tight end 1, but at this point, it would be impossible to rank any tight end ahead of him because of what he's done over the last couple of years. At number 10, we are going to go with Saquon Barkley. Now, I do have a couple couple of running backs ranked ahead of him that are going behind him, but in most drafts I have seen, Saquon Barkley is unanimously the RB3 or 4 in those drafts. I think it's crazy people are taking Barkley ahead of Bijan, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. Again, people are really scared. Saquon in the Brian Daboll offense should be really solid. There's a guy that could catch 50+ balls in this offense. Again, Brian Daboll really shape-shifted this offense. Daniel Jones looked like he was finished in New York, and Brian Daboll revived him. Gave him a little revive, right? And that was great for Daniel Jones' fantasy value, for the Giants as a whole. This is a team that has a little bit more weapons now. Darren Waller could potentially take up a decent amount of Saquon Barkley's upside inside of the red zone. But again, he's a really safe pick. If he has a RB2-3 season, I don't think anyone on earth would really be shocked. At number 11, we move to my boy 9-inch Nicholas Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. Without Kareem Hunt, I do think they are going to use Nick Chubb a lot more to catch passes in this offense. I expect under Deshaun Watson, this offense to do a complete and utter 180. I think Nick Chubb has RB1 number upside, and I definitely would lean Nick Chubb over Saquon Barkley. But again, a lot of the ADP I looked at is very conclusive on Saquon Barkley over Nick Chubb. At number 12, we will go with CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I do have Davante Adams as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked ahead of CeeDee Lamb, but there are really just not a crazy argument to have where you can argue that CD finishes ahead of those guys, right? CeeDee Lamb on the Dallas Cowboys should be a great offense yet again. CeeDee Lamb has continued to improve year over year in this offense. They get rid of Kellen Moore, so maybe that helps out CeeDee Lamb a little bit more. Again, CeeDee Lamb, super safe pick at the end of the first round. The second round opens here. We are going to go with his teammate, Tony Pollard. Now, Tony Pollard's ranking on Sleeper is 20, but I definitely disagree with that. I think Tony Pollard is going to see so many touches in this offense because he is playing on the franchise tag. And we all know on the franchise tag, these coaches love to run you into the dirt. They're going to make you go see Diglett down there. This is going to be a scenario where Pollard sees so much volume. It doesn't matter if he's a shorter back. I think he's going to get a lot more carries than people expect. Tony Pollard was locked behind Zeke for years. He is finally free. He has broken the metaphorical shackles that were put on him by Ezekiel Elliott being on the team, and I am erect if I can get Tony Pollard in the second round of fantasy football drafts. At number 14, we got Davante Adams again. This is a guy that so many people are scared shitless to draft because, oh, don't you know that Jimmy Garoppolo isn't all that great of a quarterback, Nick? Don't you know he can't throw deep? Don't you know he doesn't lock into one wide receiver? Well, at the end of the day, he is going to lock onto one wide receiver because Davante Adams is miles better than every other motherfucking receiver on this team. He's better than Hunter Renfrow. He wipes his ass with him. He's better than Jacoby Myers. Davante Adams was dominant last season with Jarrett Stidham and Derek Carr under center. So if you think he's not going to be able to do it with Jimmy Garoppolo, I personally think you are a little bit crazy. At pick number 15 here, the 2.03, we got A.J. Brown of the Eagles. A.J. Brown is much more of a hit or miss, a boom or bust player. Now, when he busts, it's not like 3 fantasy points, but his boom is going to be 25 plus fantasy football points, right? This Philadelphia Eagles offense is going to be cracked, unreal yet again. A.J. Brown had a game last year, I believe it was against the Steelers, where he was just literally manhandling them, right? He looked like a boy or a man going up against some fucking children. Like he showed up to a flag football game as a 25-year-old playing against 9-year-old kids, right? He scored a touchdown where there was 3 guys around him, and he was like, oh, you guys are too small, too little. It was hilarious. A.J. Brown is amazing. He was a guy last year I was nervous to draft because of Jalen Hurts, but shocker, right? A.J. Brown's just really good. Who would have known, right? We definitely knew that from the Tennessee days, but I was being a bit of a scaredy cat last year. At number 16, it's close to me between Josh Jacobs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would probably draft, if it was me, Josh Jacobs over A.J. Brown. But it seems like the ADP on these websites are so slow. They react at snail's pace to news, right? Josh Jacobs is good to go signing with the Raiders, and his ADP barely moves. You can get him sometimes at the end of the second round of fantasy football drafts, which would just be amazing, but we will lean with Amon-Ra right here. I am really into Amon-Ra St. Brown this season. I think that he is going to be force-fed the rock a ton. They have very little competition around Amon-Ra until Jameson Williams shows up. There's all these negative reports out of camp that Jameson Williams can't even fucking catch the ball half the time. He's on the struggle bus right now. He's suspended for the first 6 games. We could see Amon-Ra get 12, 13 plus targets in the first 6 games of the season. I'm a huge Jared Goff truther. I think Jared Goff's better than people give him the credit for, and I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown, yet again, gonna have a great season, right? It seems like every single year, last year, oh my god, he was only good for a couple games last season, he can't repeat it, right? This year, people are for some reason like, oh, I'd rather have A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb over him. I would rather have Amon-Ra over both of those guys. I think the volume is just so much safer. At number 17, we already alluded to him. That is going to be Mr. Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders. Josh Jacobs was a top 5 running back last season. He was another guy that I was on the full fade train. Josh McDaniels is the head coach. He is a running back by committee guy. And week 1 kicks off, and I was instantly wrong. It wasn't a slow burn of, oh, Nick's looking like an idiot. They're giving him a lot of carries as the season goes along. No, week fucking 1, they throw this guy out there as the workhorse back, and he finally started catching passes. It was everything we've wanted out of Jacobs for the last couple of years. Finally came when Josh McDaniels shows up, who again is notoriously not a running back like workhorse guy. He likes the running back by committee. But last year, that was very wrong. Josh Jacobs was dominant, 50 Shades of Grey style, and I expect him to be great yet again and again. Plan on that 1-year deal. This is going to be a situation where he sees a lot of run. After Josh Jacobs, we're going to go with Derrick Henry here. Now, I would not take Derrick Henry ahead of guys like Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, who are still available. There's an argument to be made about Derrick Henry, and I do like Derrick Henry more than most. There's a lot of people that are fully fading him because of his age, because of the fact that he doesn't catch a lot of passes. He got a lot more pass-catching opportunities last year. This Tennessee Titans offense just runs off of Derrick Henry, right? Even with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, they're going to run the ball at an absorbent rate. So I'm still a huge fan of Derrick Henry. Huge fan. Even in his older age, even with his yards per carry number decreasing, he's going to see 300-plus carries. So, again, is he going to finish as the RB1 in PPR where receiving work is so important? Probably not, but could he scooch his way up there into the top 3? Definitely. At number 19, we are going to go with Garrett Wilson over Jalen Waddle. Now, I do have Jalen Waddle ranked ahead of Garrett Wilson, but I have done so many drafts up to this point, and it seems like maybe 1 out of every 10 drafts, Jalen Waddle goes ahead of Garrett Wilson. And those 1 of 10 drafts are me taking Jalen Waddle ahead of Garrett Wilson. I think Jalen Waddle's the safer bet, but Garrett Wilson has a little more upside. This is a guy that looked incredible last year, downright incredible, with Magic Mike White, Zach Wilson, and cool Joe Flacco throwing him the ball. Again, I am a little bit more tempering my expectations on Aaron Rodgers. But as long as Aaron Rodgers doesn't look like a steaming pile of dog shit, Garrett Wilson's upside is incredible. So I get why people have Garrett Wilson ranked ahead of Jalen Waddle. And again, Jalen Waddle is the 1B to Tyreek's 1A, whereas it is very evident that Garrett Wilson is the clear number 1 in his offense. Jalen Waddle going here at the 2.08 again, despite being the 1B on the team. Jalen Waddle himself has said that he is good to go for week number 1. Again, I am a Dolphins fan, but I don't put any bias into my rankings into these videos. I believe that Jalen Waddle is, if he was on a lot of other teams, the clear number 1 receiver. Just like Tyreek Hill, he has that one cut ability, right? He catches a slant, makes one fucking move, jukes a defender out of his socks, and now he is running directly into the end zone. You cannot stop him. He is unstoppable. So just get him the ball more. Tua needs to stay healthy, and then Waddle and Tyreek could potentially finish as top 5 guys at receiver. At number 21, can you do something for me? We are going to go with my QB1, Jalen Hurts. Now, do I personally want to take a quarterback in the second round when there are still some really solid skill position players available? The answer would be no. But I think I would be kind of almost fooling you guys if I didn't take a quarterback in the second round, because I think a lot of drafts we are going to be seeing a quarterback go in the second round, potentially 2 quarterbacks go in the second round. Now I have Hurts ranked ahead of Mahomes and Josh Allen. If you want to say, Nick, I would have taken Mahomes, go right ahead, right? Get that old stack of Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes, right? Even though it's not really a stack anymore. It used to be. So, again, not really too many arguments to make. The reason why I have Hurts ranked ahead of those 2 is the rushing ability. I think he has the best wide receiver core out of both of them. And I think if he stayed healthy last year, he would have ended up finishing as the quarterback 1. At pick number 22, the 2.10, we are going to go with Jalen Hurts' number 2 receiver, Devontae Smith. Now, Devontae Smith, again, another guy that won't be the definition of consistency because of the offense he's in, having A.J. Brown as such a wide receiver threat on the offense. But when he does hit, when he does smash, he's going to be hitting like prime Mike Tyson. I love the player Devontae Smith, the Slim Reaper, a little... not a huge guy, right? Obviously pretty skinny, compact, like fucking Kevin Durant or something, but he doesn't have those ashy legs. Big fan of Devontae Smith this season, though. Again, just a guy that, while isn't the safest pick on earth, feels like a very comfortable click at the end of the second round. Moving to pick number 23, these are multiple players that I've ranked behind Calvin Ridley, but just these websites are lacking so heavy on Ridley. There are some websites where you can get Ridley in like the 4th fucking round, which is just absurd. So pick number 23, we got Chris Olave. Now, I have made it very clear on the channel. If you guys are new, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. So if you haven't heard this before, I have made it very clear that I'm a little nervous about Chris Olave. Now, do I think Chris Olave is a bad player? Fuck no, baby. But do I worry about the fact that Michael Thomas could maybe stay healthy for 12 games? And then Chris Olave's value is in the gutter. He's sleeping with the fishes like Luca Brasi. Now, is that guaranteed to happen? Of course not, because Michael Thomas stubs his toe getting into the bathtub in the morning, right? And he's out for the season. But, this is a big but, shout out to Kim Kardashian, if Michael Thomas does play, I don't see Chris Olave really cracking that upside as a top 12 weapon. And I could see Derek Carr just locking into Michael Thomas and giving Michael Thomas a bunch of targets every single game. At number 24, we are going to go with Mark Andrews. Again, I would probably take Calvin Ridley over Mark Andrews at the end of the second round, but I do think Mark Andrews at the end of the second or early third is great value. We talked about how Travis Kelce is getting up there in age. If there was one tight end to upset Travis Kelce and become the tight end number 1, my money would be on Mark Andrews. Todd Monken, the new offensive coordinator of the team, really loves that tight end. Who doesn't love a nice juicy tight end like Mark Andrews, though? Am I right? So Mark Andrews, again, should be a very safe option in the second round. And there's just a safety blanket that goes over your team when you draft a tight end like Mark Andrews, right? If you draft one of those later round tight ends, you might be cycling in between tight ends every single week. You might be going into the matchup shitting bricks thinking, oh my God, is my tight end going to screw me over, bend me over a table, or is he going to have a decent game? What's going to happen? Is he going to get 7 points, right? When you have Andrews, you're like, okay, he's going to do really good for me every single week, and you don't really have to have that added stress to turn your fucking hairs gray. Now at the 3.01, we move to the quarterback run of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Again, I have Josh Allen ranked ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Why? The rushing upside. Again, if you want to argue for Mahomes over Josh Allen, I'm not going to throw a fucking hissy fit with you in the comment section. You can like Mahomes more than Hurts and Allen, and it is not going to bother me at all. They're all in the same tier of rankings for me. If you guys want my rankings, they're on Patreon for $7.50. The PPR ones are up now. The half PPR ones are going to be up later, as well as my top 150 in PPR and half PPR. Again, that will be updated later. The full PPR is in the Patreon now, and if you are a Patreon member, you will be getting my weekly rankings during the season, and you'll also be able to contact me on there, and I'm guaranteed to answer a question. If you ask a comment on YouTube, now, there's a lot of you, right? It's shocking how many people leave comments, and I'm very happy about it. I try to answer as many comments as possible. I really do, but during the season, I am going to get barraged by questions. So if you are a Patreon, you're guaranteed to get an answer out of me. So that's just another added bonus. Again, it's only $7.50. It's cheaper than your fucking Netflix subscription. And Netflix keeps raising their prices. I'll never raise my price, at least for this year. Maybe next year I'll have to raise it because a lot of people have already signed up, and I just talked about it yesterday. So I do appreciate all you guys. I love you. And if you don't have the money to subscribe to the Patreon, do not feel bad. I think all of the advice I give on these videos should be good enough for you to win your championship anyways. It's just all written down on the Patreon. So back on into things again. Josh Allen, Mahomes. I'm not really going to talk too much about them, right? We know how great those guys are. At pick number 27, this is where I'm whipping the Band-Aid off. Why the fuck did I sound like that? I'm ripping the Band-Aid off, and I'm taking Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is the undisputed UFC. He's the undisputed number one. I'm not trying to be Bruce Buffer. The undisputed number one receiver in the Jags offense. He's playing on all the 2 wide receiver sets, the 3 wide receiver sets. This guy made the Dolphins defense look like they had no idea what they were doing. They could not stop him in preseason. I'm a Dolphins fan, but I'm a Calvin Ridley guy as well. Just like if Calvin Ridley wasn't suspended last year and entering into the 2021 season when he only played 5 games, this was a guy that people were talking about being the next great thing in the NFL, one of the best receivers in the NFL. And it appears people have just forgot because, Nick, he's going to be rusty. No, he's not. He's not rusty. We've already seen it in the training camp footage. The guy runs crisp routes like he's running through butter. All right? I'm in love with the Calvin Ridley hype train. I'm the conductor of the Calvin Ridley hype train. At pick numero 28, we are going to go with Ramondre Stevenson. Now, I had an epiphany yesterday, and it cost me 50 at Tiffany. Shout out to Tiffany Stephanie about Ramondre Stevenson. Now, the addition of Zeke does not help Ramondre Stevenson. It does not help the argument to give the suck, gawk 9,000 on Ramondre Stevenson. But it is important to understand that Stevenson had that fantastic year with only a couple of touchdowns. So if Zeke's coming in to vulture the touchdowns, then if Stevenson's still getting a lot of carries, a lot of receptions, then Stevenson should be just fine. Now, is his upside limited by Zeke being there? Of course. But I still think Zeke is, not going to completely derail fucking Uncharted style, send the train off that cliff, right? I don't think that's what's going to happen with Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's going to be just fine. Again, I was absolutely ecstatic about Stevenson before Zeke was there, so it does hurt. It's a little stab to the chest, but I think Stevenson will be just fine. At number 29, this is where I think a lot of running backs are going to go in the 3rd round that probably shouldn't be 3rd round picks. We got Travis Etienne. I don't like Travis Etienne. I think that we are going to see Tank Bigsby work a lot more into this offense than people believe, but there is the upside argument for Etienne. While he struggled to catch passes last season, maybe he worked on that and he's better. Maybe he gets 65% of the touches when I think he's going to see, or snaps, where I think he's going to be closer to 55 or 60, right? He's on the Jaguars. They're going to be scoring a shit ton of points. Doug Peterson's a great head coach. Trevor Lawrence looks way better when that stooge Urban Meyer isn't the head coach of the team. So there's a lot of positives to make about Travis Etienne. I am just a little bit more cautious because I think that Tank Bigsby really is that good and will cut into his workload. So again, while I'm nervous about drafting Etienne, while I have been fading him, if he fell to me in the early 4th round, I'm probably going to take him because I think that's a fair value for him. It's just early 3rd, middle of the 3rd seems a little bit dicey to me. At number 30, again, it's going to be a running back train. We're going to select Joe Mixon. Now, I am a Joe Mixon guy. I actually like Joe Mixon, but in the middle of the 3rd round, it's just not it for me. But again, ADP has him a lot of the time in the 3rd round. So when you go to do your draft on ESPN, Yahoo, NFL, wherever you do your draft, a lot of the time Mixon's going to be a middle of the 3rd round pick. Now, a lot of people dislike him because he just really hasn't improved that much recently. But the reason why I like him is it's very clear his role in this offense, right? Travis Kelce, shut up and know your role, right? We know Joe Mixon's role in this offense. He's the lead back. The other guys can't sniff his jockstrap, the other running backs behind him. So while Mixon might have declined, the offensive line's better in Cincinnati than it's been in the past, and we know he's going to see the carries. But Nick, that one game where he went bananas last year really skewed his stats. Well, the game happened. You can't just take the fucking game away. Again, I don't love Joe Mixon in the 3rd round, but a lot of people seem to just be not understanding, like the volume's just going to be there. At pick number 31, we are going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the running backs that I love going in the 3rd round. While the Lions did bring in David Montgomery for a reason, and he will more than likely be the goal line back, I do think there could be a scenario that plays out this season where they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs for a reason, right? And that is to give him a lot of volume. This is a guy that could catch 5-6 balls in a game, and in a full PPR or half PPR setting, that is really good. Jahmyr Gibbs was really good in college. Hashtag good at football. So when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs, a lot of people are galaxy braining themselves. It's the same thing people are doing with Bijan Robinson. And with Bijan, it makes way less sense than with Gibbs because Gibbs has actual competition, right? Montgomery is not some schlub. Bijan's dealing with Algier right? Again, Algiers fine, but he's not even David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs, early on in the season, again, when Jameson Williams is suspended, might see even more volume. You might see him go run out wide, catch some passes that way. This is a Lions offense that I want pieces of. I think this Lions offense is going to run the ball a lot. They're going to have a lot of opportunities given to Jahmyr Gibbs. And again, while maybe they get to the goal line and Jahmyr Gibbs gets vultured a couple of times, at the end of the day, he's still a really good running back, a very talented back. And if something was to happen to David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs' ceiling is top 5 back based upon that pass catching upside. At pick numero 32, which would be the 3.8, we are going to go with DK Metcalf. Now, DK Metcalf is a full-on fade for me. The Seattle Seahawks offense is loaded, like the diaper of Roderick's band in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. All right? DK Metcalf's got Lock It in My Pocket Skirt and JSN. Now, is JSN going to miss the first couple games? Yeah. But again, the first 2 games of the season aren't the whole season. So, loaded competition. Geno Smith isn't that good. Geno Smith likes to spread the ball around. And now there's more competition. And Metcalf struggled in the points per game metric, which is the most important metric in fantasy football, not the season finish, the points per game metric, because of Lockett. So now he has extra competition. They bring in Zach Charbonnet, who's going to catch more balls than Kenneth Walker. So there's not as many targets to go around for Metcalf. He's a guy that is just, I don't fucking get it. I don't know why people are taking DK Metcalf. Next up, we got Deebo Samuel, another guy that I'm fading. I don't like Deebo Samuel at all this season because I am very nervous about the fact that Deebo Samuel is going to not get as many carries as he used to. Again, in 2021, he was so successful because the amount of carries, the amount of touchdowns he was getting. They have Christian McCaffrey there. He's not going to get those carries. Brock Purdy doesn't necessarily favor Deebo, in my opinion. I think he's more of a George Kittle guy. They've got Kittle. They've got Ayuk. They have Deebo. Again, another loaded receiver room. Without the rushing upside, I just don't like Deebo. Again, he's a great player. I just don't like him where he's going. Next up, we're going to go with T. Higgins. Now, this is definitely a fall for T. Higgins. I would probably take him earlier than this. But again, I think in a lot of these rooms, there's going to be a fucking running back orgy going on in the middle of the 3rd round to where guys like T. Higgins could fall. And again, T. Higgins is just this safe bet, right? You know, every single week, T. Higgins is going to finish as like the wide receiver 10 through 16. He's probably never going to eclipse the top 5. If he does, it'll be like once. And if he does, it's probably because Jamar Chase is hurt. So he's held back by Jamar Chase, but he's still a safe pick. He just lacks the crazy upside that a guy, like, I will argue, even Metcalf, Deebo, right? When those guys smack, they're smacking, right? They are just absolutely dominating. T. Higgins probably isn't going to do that, but he's definitely way safer than those guys. At the 311, we are going to go with Najee Harris, running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have been someone that is probably the most on Najee Harris in the industry. It seems like everyone fucking hates Najee Harris. I don't hate Najee Harris. I think he's a better back than people give him credit for. I do worry, though, that Jaylen Warren's better than him. But the other thing that confuses me is we know Mike Tomlin, Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator from Canada. I don't even think he's actually from Canada. His last name is just Canada, But we know that Mike Tomlin is locked in his ways of workhorse running back, that one running back that gets all the carries. But could Jaylen Warren force his hand into seeing Jaylen Warren more? And if Najee gets hurt and Jaylen Warren starts flourishing, he's having a great couple games, then I think Najee Harris might be riding the pine a little bit more for Jaylen Warren. So he's definitely pretty risky. At the 312, we got Jonathan Taylor. Now, I'm not taking Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor doesn't get traded today. He doesn't get traded. Everyone's talking, oh, he's going to be a Dolphin. I thought so too. Nada. He's now placed on the PUP list, missing the first 4 games. He might not come off the PUP. He might want to be sitting out all season. He wants his bag, and Irsay doesn't want to give it to him. The only bag Irsay's got is a bag of fucking cocaine. All right? Jonathan Taylor is a great player, but he is not trustworthy. In the 4th round, maybe you take that shot from the moon. Maybe you do, but I don't even know if I want to do that because I think he is in danger of missing the whole entire season. So let me know what you guys thought down below about how I think the first 3 rounds of fantasy football drafts are going to go. Do you believe me? Do you think some of this is fugazi? What do you think about it? Let me know down below in the comment section. Make sure you guys check out the videos on your screen. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Good boy.